to Anthony Richardson, who I say is Trey Lance 2.0. He got a pretty decent sample size. I was excited to see what he did on the field, and I know Colts fans are very hyped about him. The more that things build for him, the more that I root for him, and I was a fan of him as he came out of Florida. Yes, only 13 games in college, but how did you feel about AR-15 for the first time with the horseshoe officially on his helmet on the field?
Yeah. Again, another mixed bag because he's a guy who minimal dropbacks, had an interception. I believe he had 60, around 60 something yards, not too
Yeah.
much. But for me with Anthony Richardson is whatever, I guess, about what we think, because they just named him, I believe it was today or the day before, he will be the starter going into the season, which if you were to
Nice.
tell, yeah, if you were to tell people that, what, 2 months ago before he got drafted, or even when he got drafted to the Colts, that he would be the starter, people would be like, you're crazy. Like a
Yeah.
guy who obviously had a lot to work on. That's why he wasn't the first overall pick, the second overall pick, because if he was a polished quarterback, that guy's going number one, and it's not even close because like every year, and
What you were
obviously,
about to say, the physique.
yeah, every year when we do, like you do draft stuff, whenever we do draft stuff, it's always okay, this guy comp him to him, this guy comp him to him. Even like Trevor Lawrence, like there were the comparisons. Anthony Richardson to me, and I've been doing like obviously I'm young. I've been doing draft stuff for 3 years. He's the one guy where I've been like, I just cannot find a quarterback who is exactly like him. And so I think
Really?
it was tough for me because I feel a lot of, okay, Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Some people would say Trey Lance. I think there are glaring, not yeah, glaring differences. Cam Newton, I guess I'll give you that. That's probably the closest comparison.
Yeah.
But I think Anthony Richardson's arm, and Cam Newton's great arm. Anthony Richardson's arm is ridiculous. Like it's
Yeah.
absolutely ridiculous. And it's just that ability to hit any spot downfield. And again, the accuracy was a question. But I think for the Colts,
Major one.
yeah, for me, it was just, again, preseason to me this year for quarterbacks, it was a lot harder to draw conclusions, even though, like I just talked about, it's, I don't like doing that in preseason. But again,
Right.
small sample size. I like what I saw. I didn't see a ton of rushing from him, or a lot of that ability to get out of the pocket, which I would have liked to see a little more, just because he's kind of that improvising quarterback. But again, not a amazing, oh my God, type performance.
Right.
But I feel like that's always how it is. Like it's always the Malik Cunningham, the guys who don't get drafted, who have the
Right.
fantastic preseason.
Right.
It's never kind of the high end pick. So mixed
Right.
bag again for him.
Right. And you see, sometimes we wonder if it's coddling, like D'Amico Ryan's new head coach for CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, new head coach in
Hmm.
Frank Reich, Anthony Richardson, new head coach in Shane Steichen. So you wonder if it's going to be some coddling versus like Will Levis, who got a big
Yeah.
sample size under Mike Vrabel, who's a veteran,
Hmm.
Stetson Bennett, who got the biggest sample size of week one for preseason under a Super Bowl champion and Sean McVay. So it's interesting how you see some things play out, and you even think about Trevor Lawrence's first snaps and Justin Fields and Zach Wilson's and Trey Lance's, and you just see as you feel like the coaches are more into the game, into the NFL, more veteran years on their back. We might see that bigger sample size. But I will agree, I wanted to see more out of CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson,
Hmm.
Bryce Young, as Levis and Bennett did get the bigger sample size. But nonetheless, we did get to, take a small look. 7 for 12 for Anthony Richardson on the day, 67 yards, a touchdown, a pick, some scrambles, a couple high throws. He had some completions. He had clean pockets most of the time, which did make me happy. I don't think a whole lot of those Colt starters were in there. I did see Quentin Nelson, running up a few
Hmm.
times to pick up Anthony Richardson off the ground. So knowing that he was on the field, of course, one of the better linemen in the game. He had a nice throw over midfield. I like the outside pass to Alec Pierce before he threw the bomb that everyone is talking about, that Alec Pierce drop. That was his
Hmm.
best throw of the day by far. The
And
drop
that,
back was
yeah.
great. The read, the arm angle. He put it in the breadbasket, literally on a dime, stepped up into the pocket with a little pressure. That was impressive for a guy like Anthony Richardson to be able to pull off. Again, the rushing ability was on display with the athleticism. Anthony Richardson performed about as well as I thought he could, and we saw the ugly interception, of course. I actually kind of have it described, and it makes perfect sense, right? So it's his third drop back. He's coming out of the gun. He didn't complete his drop back. He stutter steps because he's got two free rushers in his face. One guy actually jumps to hesitate the pump fake. Richardson throws off of his back foot for the interception. And then he, comes out for the one and only play action of the game, actually, as well, threw across his body, under pressure. So you saw some good things. You saw some, bad habits / traits that made Anthony Richardson literally the least accurate quarterback out of 45 FBS quarterbacks for the college football season.